Hi, this is Doug, and Happy New Year. I've taken a couple of weeks off as we transition into 2025, so this is going to be a very short podcast episode. And I'd like to hear from you if you have a minute. What would be most helpful to you in 2025 as you work to craft and advance your own personal narrative? I've considered a few paths the podcast could take, and they're not necessarily mutually exclusive. I could continue to focus on what are essentially 10 to 15-minute educational or teaching episodes, where I share my perspective as a coach, a former hiring manager, and a former executive recruiter. No matter how things develop with the podcast, I intend to keep making some episodes like this that represent some of the most common questions and challenges I've seen and heard among my clients in over a decade of coaching. And like many other podcasts, I could also start bringing guests on. Given the name of the podcast, Career Narratives, it could make logical sense to interview people about their personal narratives and how they managed to shape them in a way that ultimately led to having a meaningful and satisfying career in life. I don't think that's especially original, but it could make sense. I could also reach out to the gatekeepers like recruiters and hiring managers and talk with them to get a sense of how they see their industries and businesses developing and the kinds of personal narratives they'll be looking for in successful new hires. Given my personal interest in technology, I could also interview people who would have a relevant take on how changes in tech, especially developments in AI, are going to impact what employers and the market are going to demand in the backgrounds and stories of the managers and senior leaders they're looking to hire or promote. For this next one, and I have my friend and colleague Molly McPherson to thank for helping me think this through, I could do an occasional analysis of the narrative of someone in the public eye, even if they're a celebrity, to try and draw some lessons and learnings from how they've crafted and advanced their own personal narrative and relate those learnings to yours. When I was working as a marketer in the beauty and personal care industry for about 10 years, I spent a lot of time reading about celebrities and at times working with them. And I've never really lost my fascination with that part of our culture. And I thought that I might bring a little of that into the podcast at some point. I'm not sure when, but I'm thinking about it. And finally, I'd like to start responding to listener questions on the podcast. Some of my favorite podcasts, whether they're about productivity, politics, or current events, incorporate listener questions throughout the year. And I think that those episodes, they're often some of the best. So let me know what you'd like to hear on the podcast. More educational episodes that incorporate my perspective as a hiring manager, a recruiter, and a coach? Conversations with the current gatekeepers holding the keys to your career advancement, updates and insights about how tech, especially AI, might change how you think about advancing your career, a little reflection on the personal narratives of the people driving the meta narrative in business and entertainment, all of the above, none of the above, something I haven't thought about yet. Let me know, or just ask a question that I might respond to on the podcast. It's easy to reach me. You can send an email to podcast@careernarratives.com. I'll read it. Or you can visit careernarrativespodcast.com, and in the footer, you'll find a link to a contact form. Or you can send me a voicemail. Just click on the microphone button in the bottom right hand corner of any page on the Career Narratives Podcast website and send me a message. I'm looking forward to hearing from you, and I wish you a happy and successful 2025.